Hi, everybody, and welcome to week 4. We are still continuing studying sex trafficking and sex slavery this week, but this is going to be our last week, and we're actually going to be focusing on people who have tried to come up with creative solutions to this problem. And so we're going to read chapter 3 in Half the Sky, and it's going to be all about people who have tried to help, no matter how small their efforts may be. So the biggest thing you're going to read about in chapter 3 this week is a concept called social entrepreneurs. Many of you, if you know anything about what an entrepreneur is, those are people that take risks to run businesses. They often start a business, run it for a while, then sell it, start a new business. They're always looking for different business ventures. And social entrepreneurs do the same thing. But what they are looking for is to start businesses that sell products or services that meet community needs. Social entrepreneurs are not fundraisers. That's not charity. They don't gather money to donate necessarily. There are some solutions you're going to read about in chapter 3 of Half the Sky and all through the book that are people making donations or people starting charities, and these are great, but social entrepreneurship is something a little bit different. Donations can be tricky sometimes. Sometimes the amount is sometimes can be too small to make a difference, or in some cases even a small amount doesn't necessarily get to the people you want it to get to. So some people have taken to using the empowerment method instead, which is where social entrepreneurship comes in. So social entrepreneurs start businesses to make a profit. All right, they're not nonprofit or, organizations or anything like that. But their profits that they make from their business go back to just paying off their initial investors, and nothing beyond that. So the profit money goes right back into developing a product or service that serves the community need. So in chapter 3, you're going to read about the Ashoka Fellows, and they're a group of people that actually give money to social entrepreneurs so they can start their business. So any business owner needs capital, needs startup money to start a business. So the Ashoka Fellows help those social entrepreneurs get off their feet. They loan money just for people to start their businesses. So browse through their site after you've read Half the Sky Chapter 3. One of these supplemental materials for this week is going to be a link to the Ashoka Fellows website about their social entrepreneurs. So I'd like you to click on that and browse around and even read some of the business proposals. Not all of them are directly related to women's issues, but that's okay. A lot of them are. But if you look and you can see the kind of businesses people are trying to start to benefit their community, and the fact that Ashoka Fellows is helping them achieve their goals. So to be an Ashoka Fellow, you are a social entrepreneur. You have to apply. It's quite a rigorous process, and if you're accepted, then they will give you a loan to start their business. There's a lot of other. We're going to learn about what microfinance and microloans are all about. Ashoka Fellows is one way that one group, one organization that loans money to others to start businesses. We're going to learn more about that in this course as well. But it gives you a little bit of an introduction to what a social business actually is. You're also going to read about Usha, an educated woman who gave others courage in her village to stand up to a essentially a terrorist in their village. So you'll read about her story, and you're going to read about Sunitha, another woman who started a school out of a brothel. So you're going to read about these two women, and I want you to think about how education has played a major role in them being successful in their villages. You're going to read about Sunitha, but then I also want you to check out her organization, Prawala India, and their website. So you're going to read about her school and her organization in the chapter. They even give a website link in the chapter, but I have put that link on Blackboard. So once you're done reading, another one of the supplemental links and materials is to check out her website. You'll see they talk about her school, but a lot of other things that she's doing with that. And then you're going to also read about some student-led solutions. You're going to read about Zach Hunter. Zach Hunter is a student who collected loose change all around his community to donate to organizations that help eradicate slavery. So this is a different kind of a help, right? So this is not necessarily the economic empowerment piece or the education piece, but this is a donation. But still, he's actually turned his organization into gathering quite a bit of money. So he's also mentioned in Half the Sky, and there's a video on Zach Hunter and his website, Loose Chains to Loosen Chains. I had to say that a few times to make sure I didn't get that twisted. But his video is about 4 minutes long, and it's really great. It introduces him, and it introduces like what inspired him to really care about slavery all around the world, and how it was inspired by learning about African American slavery in our country. So it's kind of nice to put a name to the face that you read about and see kind of his passion. You're also going to read about a group of students who came up with a very unique way to help trafficking victims with their different set of products called Ecoterre. You're not going to read about these particular students in Half the Sky. This is actually a resource that was passed on to me last semester when I taught this course. And they have come up with kind of an interesting way to get sex trafficking victims help by creating a product that serves their need. So it's a little similar to the social entrepreneur, although I don't think these students are necessarily selling these as part of a business, but it's really good to see people that are coming up with these creative solutions. I'm not going to reveal to you what the Ecoterre product is quite yet. I want you to click on their website link and read about it and tell me what you think. But sometimes things like donating money or even empowering others to start their own businesses, sometimes that stuff can be a bit time consuming and also be tricky to weave in with the culture of a particular group. You read about this, I think it was in chapter 1 or 2, about the group that decided to donate a bike to the girl who wanted to go to school in Cambodia. And they were really happy and it was working, but then the girl sold the bike to somebody who asked for it on the street, and then she couldn't get to school anyway. So it was a great donation and it was a great thought, but with the disconnect there about the culture that this girl was living in, she couldn't necessarily own a bike without being sort of forced to give it up. So these students, the Ecoterre students, have come up with a kind of an out-of-the-box solution to get women some help, especially when this task seems pretty daunting. So I think it's a really good message. I pass this on because it's a good message because something like sex trafficking and sex slavery seems like an impossible thing to overcome and an absolutely impossible thing to help or to eradicate completely. I've been reading some of your tweets that you're a bit overwhelmed with some of the subject matter that we read about in these chapters, and that's completely understandable. This is really sometimes tough stuff to read, but I think it's also inspiring to read about these people like Sunitha, who started a school, or Zach, who started his donation group, or the Ashoka Fellows, who have their businesses, or the Ecoterre students who come up with a product that they could give out. So, and these things are seemingly very small, but they're tackling this problem like chipping away at it, and they're making a dent. They're making a difference. So it doesn't matter how small of a difference they're still making a difference. So that's really, really helpful. And Usha's story, well, that one's quite interesting too. She makes quite a difference in her village. Not to reveal any spoilers quite yet. But I want you to think about all of these solutions and the role that education plays in them. So you'll read about somebody like Usha, who's a very educated woman, and I want you to think about how education helped inspire, how her being educated helped inspire the other people in her village. It might not seem like it did, but it's important to think about that. I want you to obviously think about Sunitha starting her school in a brothel. Clearly she's decided that education is a choice, a way to help these women get out of the brothel. So I want you to think about that. And even with somebody like Zach or the Ecoterre students, I mean, they're students themselves. How is their education helping them think of out-of-the-box solutions to help these people? So I want you to think about that role that education plays and consider writing about that for your reading reflections if you choose to do that assignment and choose to write about this week, or your discussion posts, your discussion comments, or your tweets. All of those assignments are due by Sunday, February 2nd, 11:59 p.m. That is going to be the end of week 4. So make sure you get all of those in. I also wanted to bring up the fact that there is another Women's Educational Center event this week. A couple of you have actually attended the Writing is Me workshop a couple weeks ago, or the sex trafficking survivor that they had come in and talk last week. So this is another one about gender violence. It's called Taking Down Rape Culture. It's on Monday, January 27th from 6 to 8 in the Women's Educational Center, which is 213 in the USEN. We're actually skipping chapter 4 and 5 in Half the Sky. So going forward, we're not moving through this book exactly in order. So we've read chapters 1, 2, and 3, but we're actually skipping 4 and 5 before we go on to our next topic after this. Chapters 4 and 5 are about rape and gender violence. So if you want to keep reading and you have the time to do that, they're great stories. More about kind of how women are suffering around the world with gender violence, not just rape, but violence in general, and what other people have done to sort of help and empower other people to get by. So I highly suggest reading them, although they're not required. But if you're going to attend this Taking Down Rape Culture event, it might be a good idea to read chapter 4 and 5 in Half the Sky, because they have some clear connections to this event. So again, the event is completely optional. If you chose that assignment, you don't necessarily even have to attend that event. But again, if you have the time to do some of these things, I think they only add to the learning in this course for sure. So last but not least, I want to bring up another big event that is this week, which is the Super Bowl. That is also Sunday, February 2nd. Denver Broncos, Seattle Seahawks, big cold weather Super Bowl in New York. And this is a fun event. I'm a huge football fan myself, so I'll be watching as I have every year. But this is really interesting, although the Super Bowl itself is quite fun and seemingly harmless, but large events like this are actually a magnet for pimps selling traffic girls to the tourists that invade kind of these large events. In fact, even the Detroit Auto Show, which was just here in Detroit for the last couple weekends, is another event that sometimes can attract pimps selling prostituted girls. So although people that not every person or guy that attends the Super Bowl is going to necessarily solicit a prostitute, but a lot of them do. Maybe they're on vacation, I don't know, but these are not necessarily willing prostitutes, and that's the problem, as we've read in all of these chapters. Sometimes we think that prostitution is a choice that a woman makes to make some money, and they're deciding whether to do it or not, but now that we've read a few chapters in this book, we know that that might not necessarily be true. Not necessarily. So this is a big event, and it could attract pimps looking to sell trafficked girls. So I bring this up because this is a prime example of getting to know other resources on Twitter. I really had not thought about this as a connection to the Super Bowl until someone had passed it along on Twitter using our class hashtag EDE201. And then since then, I've seen that article come up through the Half the Sky Twitter feed as well. So this is really interesting. I passed that article along. It's from USA Today. That is on the bottom of our kind of our to-do list, our week 4 module for the week. It's connected obviously to the topics in our course, but it's not going to be a required article. It's just if you have time to pass it on. But I thought it was interesting because it's a prime example of how I'm actually learning a lot of new stuff by being involved in reading all of your tweets and all the great resources that you guys have been passing on. I'm learning a lot that can only add to this class too. So thank you for passing on all the great resources that you found, and please continue to do so. Even if you're not tweeting necessarily for the Twitter assignment, everybody should be on there. I hope you're reading. We're having some great conversations on our hashtag, and if you see articles that are relevant, even when you're reading on the internet in your own life, throw them up on Twitter with the hashtag, and that have all of us be able to read them and to be able to learn more. So that Super Bowl sex trafficking article was something that I discovered from Twitter this time and hadn't actually thought about before. So it's really quite interesting to see. So that's all for week 4. You've got Half the Sky Chapter 3 is our main text that we're reading, and then you've got a few other websites to browse and a video on Zach Hunter to watch, and then a couple an optional article and an optional Women's Educational Center event to attend this week. So hopefully you all have a great week. Stay warm, and hopefully the next time you see a video, the polar vortex will be over. Let's only hope. So have a great week, and let me know if you need anything.